And so again, good morning and welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you for sharing your practice and your presence with us today. As director of the Temple Buddhist Center, I have received many notes, emails, text messages, phone calls the past week or two regarding our current state of affairs. And mostly it is the same type of conversations around what to do, what to say, how to help. There's an overriding feeling of confusion amongst many of the folks that I speak with. And so there's an awful lot to unpack here, and so I hope that you will stay with us this morning as we explore what is ours to do. We have all been heartbroken by the violence and the injustice that we have witnessed recently towards Black people, towards members of our community, towards our friends, our family, and our neighbors. As the entire world reacts, we can, each one of us, be bombarded by television, radio, phone, video, the news, table talk, discussions with friends, texting, and all of these about the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do, the right thing to say, the wrong thing to say, what is best for them, what is best for us, blame, judgment, fear, confusion. The external landscape is once again at war and has become a war zone. And until we can stop the war inside, there will always be war outside. Even now, if you are honest with yourself, can you feel yourself attaching blame? Can you feel yourself creating us and them, passing judgment? I know I have been struggling with all of these things in the past few weeks as well. You see, when we are hurting, when we are vulnerable or afraid, then we project anger and disgust. We project it outwardly. This is the reaction. You see, it feels much more empowering to be angry than to be vulnerable. It feels much more righteous to be disgusted than to be helpless. Who wants to feel helpless? I'm not helpless. Many folks that I have spoken with, having attended several of the protest rallies, there are many people who, if you were to ask them about helplessness, would respond with complete contrary and opposite. But I want to investigate that for a moment further, and I want to invite you to clear your mind, open your heart, and in the spirit of investigation and self-inquiry, which is such a major part of our practice as Buddhists, to investigate this idea of helplessness, of vulnerability, and let's do it together. One thing I would like to bring up is this. The injustice, in fact, the brutality that we witnessed last week, this has been going on for 400 years. Only we know about it now because of video cameras. It has been brought into your home because of cell phones and social media. It's not new. It's been going on for 400 years. Can you feel the helplessness in that? Most white people want to feel compassion for Black friends and loved ones, but you can't. Compassion is not something the unwounded feel for the wounded. A true compassionate relationship is between equals, and most white people have never experienced racism. We are all helpless because things come in and out of existence due to causes and conditions far beyond any human being's control. In the sutras, it is written that all phenomena arise out of causes and conditions, and all phenomena cease due to causes and conditions. We can learn about causes and conditions by simply looking at human interactions and relationships. Relationships can be loving and respectful. They can be antagonistic and competitive, and some can be combinations of both. If we understand causes and conditions, we can understand how the welfare of sentient beings rises and falls, how existence begins and ends, and the reality of humanity and the universe are in constant flow. So then, what is ours to do? We know that we cannot solve a problem at the level that it was created. And it is a paradox of our Buddhist practice that the way out is the way through. The spiritual warrior stops hacking and slashing at the world and turns the blade of awareness within to slice through ignorance, fear, and delusion. For example, the delusion that there is anything other than one race, the human race. We purify fear in our hearts by acknowledging it, by sitting with it, by being with it, and not taking the bait of distraction or addiction. We embrace our vulnerability by not turning away. Writer and speaker Brené Brown says, people who wade into discomfort and their own vulnerabilities, who tell the truth about their stories, those are the real badasses. Ours is the path of the spiritual warrior. And those who think that it is passive, that all you're doing is sitting there on the cushion, simply do not understand. And I will go into here in a moment the ferocity of our Buddhist path. Because see, no one wants to sit with the fear, with the helplessness, with the vulnerability. It feels much better to throw things, to march, to carry signs, to blame and to judge. It's not that we don't do those things, but it's what is in our hearts when we do. You see, when we have the courage to acknowledge white privilege, when we have the courage to not only acknowledge, but to speak out against systemic failure for our communities of color, then we can become vulnerable. And only when we can begin to feel our vulnerability and our helplessness, then can we feel true compassion. And when we feel true compassion, we can hold both George Floyd and Derek Chauvin in our hearts. And in that moment right there, when we rise from the cushion to take action in the world, it is not from a small place of fear and hatred, ignorance and confusion. It is with the clarity and the wisdom of 1,000 Buddhas and the compassionate ferocity of a temple dragon. We begin to engage the world with consciousness. We begin to educate ourselves by reading books like White Fragility or Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? We attend or sponsor open dialogues and book clubs. We attend marches. We add our voice to the circles of friends. We research legitimate funding opportunities. We attend city meetings. We get involved in local government. We vote. We work on campaigns. We write poetry. We share our songs. We create beautiful works of art. And we listen deeply without the filter of fear, hatred, blame, judgment, confusion. We listen with open hearts. And so as we cultivate peace in our hearts and openness of mind, as we have always done, even though our world seems to be descending into chaos, it has always done this. Our practice is like a hurricane. It is not the noise, the confusion, the chaos, the suffering around us. It is the center. It is the middle. It is the center. It is the middle where we find clarity. When we look outside and we listen to all of the confusion, we ourselves can become confused. But when we clear our minds of all these thoughts of blame and judgment, and we open our hearts, in this space where we can hold all beings in love and compassion as each moment unfolds, there and then we can do what is that is ours to do. And I would like to end by sharing with you Maya Angelou's poem, The Caged Bird. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through the bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the singing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. What is ours to do has always been right here and right now, within our hearts, with an open mind and an open heart.